The knock on the door did not come loud or angry. It came soft, patient, and certain, the kind of knock that carries the weight of truth instead of threat. In that moment, standing barefoot on a cold concrete floor with overdue bills scattered like fallen leaves, I understood that life doesn't always collapse with a scream. Sometimes it ends a chapter with a whisper, with a calm reminder that time has run out and excuses have grown thin. The air felt heavier than usual, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting to see whether I would finally face what I had been avoiding for months. Before the story truly begins, if you believe that kindness still matters in a world that often feels harsh, if you believe in second chances and quiet acts of humanity that change lives, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to The Kindness Chronicles. Your support keeps stories like this alive, stories that remind us we are more than our worst moments. I had moved into that apartment with optimism stitched into my chest, believing hard work would eventually outrun bad luck. It was a narrow place above a closed-down tailor shop, with windows that rattled when buses passed and a ceiling fan that groaned like an old man stretching his bones. It wasn't much, but it was shelter, and at the time, shelter felt like victory. I told myself I would stay only a year, save enough, and move on. But life has a way of quietly changing plans when you aren't looking. A factory shutdown took my job first, then came weeks of unanswered. The woman who owned the building was not what people expected from a landlord. She was older, with tired eyes that had seen enough storms to know when one was real and when one was just noise. She lived downstairs, alone, keeping her world small and tidy. She never knocked before that day, never raised her voice, never embarrassed me in front of neighbors. She simply let time do the talking, and time spoke loudly through unpaid rent and unopened letters. When she finally stood at my door, her calmness was more unsettling than anger would have been. It told me she had already prepared herself for whatever answer I might give. I had rehearsed excuses in my head for weeks, but when reality stood in front of me, words felt cheap and thin. The truth was heavier. I was drowning slowly, quietly, without drama. Each morning I woke up hoping something would change, and each night I went to sleep bargaining with tomorrow. Pride kept me from asking for help. Fear kept me from leaving. And shame. As the days passed after that knock, the apartment began to feel smaller, like it was shrinking around my failures. I sold my phone, then my watch, then books I loved, convincing myself these sacrifices meant progress. But progress never came. Instead, I learned how hunger sharpens the senses and how silence can feel louder than noise. I started spending afternoons at the public library, not just to search for jobs but to sit among strangers who looked equally lost. It was there, between dusty shelves and flickering lights, that I realized how many people survive invisible struggles, carrying them with straight backs and tired eyes. The woman downstairs noticed small things. She noticed when I stopped turning on lights at night. She noticed when grocery bags stopped appearing. She noticed when my footsteps became slower, heavier. Yet she never said anything. Her silence was not neglect, it was restraint. She was watching, measuring something deeper than money. I did not know it then. One evening, as rain hammered the city and leaked through the cracked window frame, something inside me finally broke. Not in a dramatic way, but in the quiet surrender that comes when pretending becomes too exhausting. I sat on the floor, surrounded by shadows, and accepted that survival alone was not enough. Living required something more, something better. And for the first time, instead of running from my situation, I leaned into it. I asked myself what I still had left to give. I had no money, no connections, no safety net. But I had time, hands willing to work, and a heart that still remembered how to care. The next morning, without overthinking, I went downstairs and offered help. I cleaned the hallway, fixed a broken step, carried groceries for neighbors. I didn't announce my intentions or make promises. I simply acted. Day after day, I repaired what I could, painted what needed color, and listened when people needed someone to hear them. The building slowly changed, and so did. Weeks turned into months, and something remarkable happened. The building became warmer, not because of repairs, but because of connection. Neighbors began greeting each other. Children laughed louder in the stairwell. Even the walls seemed to breathe easier. I still owed rent, but I was no longer just a tenant behind on payments. I had become part of a living, breathing community. One afternoon, sunlight poured through the hallway like forgiveness. The woman called me downstairs and spoke calmly, as she always did. She acknowledged the rent I owed, but she also acknowledged the change she had witnessed. She spoke of responsibility, of dignity, of the value of effort when money fails. She did not erase my debt, but she reframed it. She allowed me time, space, and something far more valuable than relief: trust. That trust changed everything. With stability came confidence, and with confidence came opportunity. A neighbor recommended me for a maintenance job.